The summer heat hung heavy over the green tea fields of when the sky cracked open. Was in her repair shop, elbow-deep in a broken tractor engine, when the sound hit her like a punch to the chest. It was not thunder. It was something falling, something big, and it screamed through the air like a wounded animal. She ran outside just in time to see it. A massive object, silver and black, trailing smoke and fire, crashed into the field 3 kilometers away. The ground shook beneath her feet. Birds exploded from the trees in every direction. For a long moment just stood there, her wrench still in her hand, her heart beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. Her nephew came running from the house, his phone already in his hand, recording everything. He was 16 and curious about everything, especially things he should probably stay away from. "Did you see that?" he shouted. "It's not a plane. Look at the shape." Looked. The smoke rising from the crash site formed a dark pillar against the blue sky. The shape that had fallen was wrong for any aircraft she knew. It was too smooth, too curved, like something from a dream or a nightmare. "Stay here," she told. He laughed, "No way." They took her old truck down the dirt road, bouncing over rocks and holes until they reached the edge of the tea field. Other farmers were already gathering, standing at a safe distance, pointing and talking in excited voices. The object had carved a long scar through the green rose, tearing up earth and plants for hundreds of meters before coming to rest in a shallow crater. It was a ship. There was no other word for it. The hull was made of some dark metal that seemed to drink the sunlight. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with blue light. Parts of it were broken, cracked open like an egg, and thick smoke poured from the wounds. "This is not from Earth," whispered. Could not argue with that. Then the door opened. A ramp extended from the side of the ship and figures emerged. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. Their skin was pale gray, almost silver. Their eyes were large and dark, without any white. They wore tight suits of some shimmering material, and they moved with the careful grace of people who thought very highly of themselves. There were 5 of them. The one in front was taller than the others, and he wore a band of gold around his arm. He looked at the gathered farmers with an expression that recognized immediately. It was the look of someone staring at insects. The tall one spoke. His voice was strange, musical but cold, and the words meant nothing but his tone was clear. He was annoyed. He was inconvenienced. He looked at the humans like they were part of the landscape, no more important than the tea bushes. One of the farmers, old Mr. Park, stepped forward with his hands raised in peace. He tried to speak, tried to offer help, but the tall alien simply turned away. He pulled a device from his belt and spoke into it rapidly. Then he waited. Within an hour, military vehicles arrived. Soldiers formed a perimeter around the crash site. Government officials came in black cars, trying to establish contact with the aliens. But the aliens refused to speak. They stood in a tight group near their broken ship and waited, ignoring every attempt at communication. Watched from behind the perimeter line. She was an engineer. She understood machines. And looking at that ship, even damaged as it was, she could see it was something beyond anything humans had ever built. The curves were too perfect. The metal was too smooth. Whatever powered it, whatever made it fly between stars, it was technology that humans could only dream about. The second alien ship arrived at sunset. It came down from the sky slowly, gracefully, landing beside the wreck without even disturbing the grass. This ship was bigger, sleeker, clearly not damaged. More aliens emerged, these ones wearing different colors, carrying equipment. The tall alien from the first ship spoke with them briefly. Then something happened that would never forget. He laughed. He pointed at the gathered humans, at the soldiers with their guns, at the officials with their papers, and he laughed. The other aliens joined him. It was a cold sound without any warmth or humor. It was mockery, pure and simple. One of the aliens near the back, a female with lighter gray skin, seemed less amused. She watched the humans with curious eyes, her head tilted slightly. But when the tall one barked an order, she followed the others up the ramp of the rescue ship. Before he left, the tall alien turned to face the crowd one last time. He spoke, and this time a device on his collar translated his words into rough English. "Keep the wreck," he said. "Use the metal for your primitive tools. It is garbage now, fit for a garbage world." Then he walked up the ramp. The door closed. The ship rose into the air and vanished into the darkening sky. Silence fell over the field. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure what to do. The officials muttered into their phones. The farmers slowly drifted away, talking about what they had seen, but did not leave. She walked toward the wrecked ship, past the distracted soldiers, right up to the dark hull. She did not know why she did it. Something pulled her forward, some instinct she could not name. She reached out and touched the metal. It was warm, not hot from the crash, but warm like living skin. And beneath her fingertips she felt something, a vibration, a pulse, like a heartbeat, slow and steady. The ship was not dead. "Hey," a soldier shouted at her, "get back." Pulled her hand away, but she did not stop looking at the ship. Those aliens had called it garbage. They had laughed and left it behind, but had fixed enough broken things in her life to know the difference between dead and sleeping. This ship was sleeping. Appeared beside her, his eyes wide. "What did you feel?" Looked at her nephew, then back at the ship. The government would take it away. Scientists would study it. But she knew, deep in her bones, that this was not the end of the story. "I felt a second chance," she said quietly, "and I don't think those aliens are going to like what we do with it." The stars were coming out now, filling the sky with cold light. Somewhere out there, the aliens were flying home, certain they would never think about this little planet again. They were wrong. 6 months had passed since the crash, and the world had changed in ways that most people did not even know about. The alien ship was gone from, moved in the dark of night to a secret facility outside the city of. The government had told the public that the wreckage was destroyed, that there was nothing useful left. This was a lie. Stood in the main research hall, looking up at the ship she had touched on that summer day. It looked different now. The damage had been carefully cleaned. The hull gleamed under bright lights. Cables and sensors covered every surface, connecting the alien technology to human computers. She was not supposed to be here. She was just a small-town mechanic, a woman who fixed tractors and trucks, but the government had found her. They had asked questions about that moment when she touched the ship. They had learned that the ship had responded to her, that sensors had detected a brief surge of power at her touch. And so they had brought her here, given her a security badge, and asked her to help. Doctor, the lead scientist, walked beside her with a tablet in his hands. He was a thin man with tired eyes and the excited energy of someone who had not slept properly in weeks. "We have learned more in 6 months than we thought possible," he said. "The principles behind this technology, they match theories that our best physicists only dreamed about. Faster than light travel, energy manipulation, materials we cannot even identify." "But can you use any of it?" asked. Smiled. "That is where things get interesting. Come." He led her to a smaller room where her nephew sat at a computer station. The boy was 17 now, taller, more serious. The government had recruited him too for his skill with digital systems. He had been working day and night to decode the ship's internal network. "I found something," said without looking up. "The ship has a brain." "A computer?" asked. "No, more than that, an intelligence. It was sleeping like you said, but I think I woke it up." On the screen, patterns of light moved in complex waves. They almost looked like brain activity, like thoughts becoming visible. Felt a chill run down her spine. A young woman entered the room, carrying a stack of papers. Her name was Sara, and she was a linguist who had been studying the alien symbols for months. She had finally cracked the code 3 days ago, and since then, everything had accelerated. The AI is ready to communicate, Sora said. I have set up a basic translation system. It understands Korean now, more or less. Doctor looked at, would you like to talk to it? It seems to respond best to you. Nodded slowly. She stepped forward to a microphone that connected to speakers throughout the ship. She cleared her throat, feeling foolish. Hello, can you hear me? Silence. Then the lights on the ship pulsed softly, and a voice emerged from the speakers. It was mechanical but smooth, like water flowing over stones. I hear you. You are the one who touched me, the one who felt my heartbeat. His hands were shaking. Yes, that was me. What do I call you? My designation is vessel. I carry, I protect, I serve. Doctor stepped forward eagerly. Vessel, why were you abandoned? Why did they leave you here? The lights flickered in what might have been sadness. My core was damaged in the crash. They believed I was dead. They do not waste resources on dead things. They do not look closely at what they throw away. But you are not dead, said. I was hibernating, healing. My kind can sleep for centuries if we must. They have forgotten this. They are a young species despite their technology. They believe that what is broken is useless. Sora exchanged glances with the others. Vessel, what were you carrying? What was your mission? There was a long pause. When Vessel spoke again, his voice was lower, more careful. I carry information, star maps, technology blueprints, and coordinates. Coordinates to what? Asked. To a weapons cache, hidden in a system 3 light years from here. Weapons from an ancient war built by the ancestors. Weapons that could destroy fleets. Weapons that could change the balance of power in this part of the galaxy. The room went completely silent. Everyone understood what this meant. They had thrown away not just a broken ship, but the key to something incredibly valuable, something dangerous. General, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped forward. He was a hard-faced man who rarely showed emotion, but his eyes were wide now. Why would they forget something so important? The war was long ago, Vessel explained. The location was stored only in ships like me, and most of my kind were destroyed. They stopped searching. They assumed the cache was lost forever, but I remember. I always remember. Looked at the general. They don't know. They left this ship behind without checking what it knew. Because they thought we were too primitive to understand, added. They didn't even consider the possibility. Doctor was practically vibrating with excitement. This information is worth more than gold, more than oil, more than anything on Earth. If we can learn to use this technology, if we can reach that cache, we would become a power in the galaxy, General finished. His voice was heavy with the weight of what he was saying, and they would do anything to stop us. As if in answer to his words, Vessel's lights suddenly flashed red. An alarm tone filled the room. What is happening? Demanded. A transmission, Vessel said. A diplomatic frequency. Someone is looking for me. They are asking questions. They are remembering what they forgot. Felt her stomach drop. The mockery, the laughter, the casual cruelty of those aliens on that summer day. They had been so certain of their superiority, so sure that Earth was nothing. But now, somewhere out in the stars, someone was starting to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. What do we do? Sora asked. General's face hardened. We learn everything we can, we prepare, and we do not let anyone know what we have found, not yet. Placed her hand on Vessel's hull, feeling that familiar warmth beneath her palm. The ship that was left for garbage. The ship that remembered what its masters forgot. They're coming back, she whispered, aren't they? Vessel's response was soft, almost gentle. Yes, and they will not be laughing this time. The United Nations building in Geneva was not built for moments like this. The Great Assembly Hall, with its wooden walls and careful lighting, was designed for human problems, trade agreements, border disputes, climate discussions. It was not designed for the arrival of beings from another world. But here they were. Ambassador of the stood at the podium. his silver skin gleaming under the lights. He was shorter than Commander had been, but his eyes were sharper, and his smile was the practiced smile of someone who had negotiated across 100 worlds. Behind him stood two assistants, silent and still like statues. "We come in peace and friendship," said, his words translated by a device at his throat. "We wish only to retrieve property that belongs to the Confederacy, a damaged vessel that was left on your world some months ago. We understand there may have been some confusion about its value." Secretary sat at the front of the human delegation, her face calm and unreadable. She was Korea's representative to the UN, chosen to lead this negotiation because the ship had crashed on Korean soil. She was known for her patience, her intelligence, and her ability to smile while saying no. "Ambassador," she said, "we appreciate your visit. However, we must inform you that the vessel you speak of has been undergoing scientific analysis. It is not a simple matter to return it." Smile flickered. The vessel is property. Its analysis by a primitive species was not authorized. A murmur went through the human delegates. The word primitive hung in the air like a bad smell. Secretary did not react. Perhaps primitive is not the best word to use when asking for cooperation. Waved a hand dismissively. "I mean no offense. We understand that your species is still young, still learning. This is why we offer compensation for any inconvenience." He gestured to one of his assistants, who opened a case to reveal several glowing crystals. "These are data crystals containing star maps and basic scientific information, a generous gift for your people." "Trinkets," General muttered under his breath, watching the broadcast from the facility. "They think they can buy us off with scraps." Stood beside him, her arms crossed. The whole research team was watching the negotiation on a large screen, sat at his computer station, monitoring vessels' reactions. Sora and Doctor stood nearby, tense and silent. On the screen, Secretary examined the crystals with polite interest. "These are lovely, but I am afraid the matter requires more discussion. The vessel crashed on our territory. We have invested significant resources in its study. Surely you understand that we cannot simply hand it over without proper agreements." His patience was clearly wearing thin. "What agreements would you require?" "Technology sharing, trade negotiations, a formal treaty recognizing Earth as a sovereign world in the galactic community." Laughed. It was not the cruel laughter of Commander, but it was just as dismissive. "Your world is not ready for such things. You have barely left your own planet. These requests are unrealistic." "Then perhaps this conversation is premature," Secretary said calmly. The screen behind suddenly flickered. A new face appeared, old and lined, with eyes like chips of black ice. This was Elder, one of the senior members of the council. He was joining by holographic transmission from somewhere far away. "Enough games," said. His voice was deep and cold. "We know what that ship contains. We know about the coordinates." The room went very still. Back in felt her heart stop. They knew. Somehow they had figured it out. Continued, his holographic image flickering slightly. "The weapons cache is of vital importance to the Confederacy. We are currently in a delicate situation with the Empire. The balance of power must be maintained. The cache must be recovered." Secretary's expression did not change, but could see the tension in her shoulders. "I see. And if we refuse?" "You will not refuse." His voice was flat, certain. "Your planet has no defenses against our fleet. Your technology is centuries behind ours. You will return the vessel and all information you have gathered, or you will face consequences." "Is that a threat, Elder?" "It is a fact." The human delegates whispered among themselves. The atmosphere in Geneva had changed. What had started as negotiation was becoming something else, something dangerous. Turn 2, what is Vessel saying? Was pale. "He's scared. He says the will not stop. They need those weapons too badly." "Ask him what happens if they get the cash," Doctor said. Typed rapidly, Vessel's response appeared on his screen. They will use the weapons to dominate and then they will dominate everyone else. They believe in their superiority above all things. They will not share the galaxy. They will rule it. General's face was hard as stone. We cannot give them that power. On the screen in Geneva, Secretary stood. Her voice was strong and clear as she addressed the assembly. Elder Ambassador, Earth appreciates your position. However, we cannot in good conscience hand over technology or information that might be used to harm other civilizations. Until fair and equal terms can be established, the vessel and its contents will remain in our custody. His holographic face twisted with fury. You dare, you insignificant species, you dare to challenge the. We dare to protect ourselves and others, Secretary replied. This session is concluded. She turned and walked out. The other human delegates followed. Ambassador stood frozen at the podium, his silver face pale with shock. Elder's hologram flickered and vanished. The research team watched in stunned silence. She did it, Sora whispered. She actually told them no. General was already moving, pulling out his phone. Get me the Defense Ministry and contact our allies. We need to prepare for what comes next. That night, as the world slept, Vessel detected an encrypted transmission cutting through space, decoded it with shaking hands and showed the message to Prepare Retrieval Fleet, Authorization. Stared at the words. They had stood up to an empire. They had said no to beings who had traveled between stars when humans were still learning to farm. And now those beings were coming to take what they wanted by force. She looked at Vessel's dark hull, at the ship that had been thrown away like trash. We're going to need you, she said quietly. We're going to need everything you can teach us. Vessel's lights pulsed in response. Then I will teach you, and together we will show them what garbage can become. 2 months of fear and fire had changed the world. Every nation knew what was coming. Every government had put aside old arguments to face the threat from the stars, and in the secret facility outside, humans had worked miracles with alien garbage. Had not slept more than 4 hours a night since the threat was made. Her hands were rough from work, her eyes red from reading blueprints that hurt her mind to understand. But standing in the construction bay, looking at what they had built, she felt something close to hope. 3 ships floated in their launch cradles. They were not beautiful like the vessels. They were rough, angular, covered in welded patches and exposed cables. But they were real. They flew. And they carried weapons that they had never imagined humans could build. Ugly children, Doctor said, standing beside her. But they are ours. Will they be enough? Asked. Was quiet for a moment. They will have to be. The alarm sounded throughout the facility. Everyone froze, then ran to their stations. His heart pounded as she rushed to the command center where General stood before a wall of screens. They're here, the general said. The screens showed the edge of Earth's solar system, captured by the new sensors they had built using Vessel's knowledge. 15 shapes hung in the darkness of space. Warships, sleek and deadly and utterly sure of their power. 15 against 3, someone muttered. Better odds than I expected, General replied grimly. The lead ship broadcast on all frequencies. The voice that filled the command center was familiar. It was Commander, the same alien who had laughed at the humans in that green tea field almost a year ago. People of Earth, this is Commander of the Expeditionary Force. You have stolen property and refused to return it. You have insulted the Confederacy and threatened galactic peace. Surrender the vessel and all derived technology immediately, or your world will face destruction. His voice was confident, almost bored. He expected obedience. He expected fear. Secretary's response came from Geneva, broadcast to every screen on Earth and beyond. Commander, we remember you. We remember how you laughed at us and called us primitive. We remember how you threw away your ship like garbage and told us to use it for tools." She paused. "We took your advice." The screens behind her changed, showing the 3 human ships rising from their hidden launch sites. They were clumsy compared to the vessels. They struggled against gravity in ways that alien ships never did. But they rose and they flew, and they took up position in Earth's orbit. His voice returned, and for the first time it held uncertainty. "What is this? What have you done?" "We learned," Secretary said simply. "We studied. We worked. We took the garbage you left behind and we made it into something new. These ships carry weapons based on technology. They are crude, yes, but I am told they work quite well." Silence on the frequency. In the command center allowed herself a small smile. Rushed in, tablet in hand. "Elder is demanding to speak directly with our leadership. He sounds angry." "Let him wait," General said. "We have other business first." The 3 human ships, crewed by the bravest pilots on Earth, moved into formation. They were so small against the fleet, so fragile, but they did not retreat. Commander's face appeared on screen. His silver features were twisted with disbelief and rage. "You think these toys can stop us? You think you can fight the Confederacy with scraps and stolen knowledge?" "I think," General replied, "that you underestimated us once. I would advise against doing it again." Turn 2. Is the transmission ready? Nodded, his face pale but determined. "Doctor and Sora have it prepared. One button and the location of the weapons cache goes out to every receiver in this sector, including the—" This was the plan, the desperate, dangerous plan that had proposed in the darkest days of their preparation. They were not the only power in this part of the galaxy. The Empire, cold and calculating, had been in a cold war with them for centuries. Neither side dared make a first move. But if they learned about the weapons cache, if they knew they were trying to claim it— "Do it," said. "Press the button." For several minutes nothing happened. The fleet hung in space, weapons ready. The human ships held their position, waiting. The whole world held its breath. Then Vessel's voice echoed through the command center. "New contact, entering the system, signatures." The screens lit up with new shapes, darker than the ships, more angular, more aggressive. Warships, dozens of them, appearing at the edge of the solar system. Commander's face went pale. "No, no, this is not possible." A new voice cut through the communications, deep, cold, emotionless. "Vessels, this is Fleet Commander Turn of the Empire. We have received information regarding a weapons cache of significant strategic value. Explain your presence in this system immediately." The fleet froze. They could fight humans. They could not fight humans and at the same time. The weapons cache that they had come to protect was now known to their greatest enemy. Elder's voice broke through, desperate and furious. "What have you done? Do you understand what you have done?" Secretary's response was calm. "We have leveled the playing field, Elder. You cannot take the cache now without the responding. They cannot take it without you responding. And neither of you can ignore Earth anymore. You have started a war." "No, we have prevented one. As long as that cache exists, neither of you will dare to move, and we hold the coordinates." Silent, long, heavy silence. Watched the screens as the 2 alien fleets faced each other across Earth's solar system. Neither moved. Neither fired. The balance of power had shifted, and at the center of it all was one small blue planet that everyone had dismissed as primitive. Leaned back in his chair, exhausted but smiling. "I can't believe that worked." "It hasn't worked yet," Doctor warned. "This is just the beginning." He was right. On the screens, Elder's face appeared. Gone was the arrogance, the certainty, the contempt. In its place was something had never expected to see on features. "Fear." "People of Earth," said slowly, "it seems we need to talk." Outside the facility, the sun was setting. The sky was red and gold, beautiful and peaceful, giving no sign of the drama unfolding in the darkness beyond. walked outside for a moment, needing fresh air, needing to feel solid ground beneath her feet. She looked up at the stars, at the hidden ships and fleets and powers that waited there. 1 year ago, she had been a simple mechanic in a small town. Now she stood at the center of a galactic crisis. "We really did it," she whispered to herself. "We made them afraid." Vessel's voice came through her earpiece, soft and warm. "You made them respect you. That is harder." Smiled and went back inside. There was still work to do. The Great Hall in Geneva had never seen anything like this. 3 delegations sat at a triangular table. Humans on one side, on another, on the third. The flags of Earth's nations hung on the walls, joined now by the strange symbols of 2 alien civilizations. 1 week had passed since the standoff in space. 1 week of tense negotiations, careful words, and sleepless nights. The fleet still waited in Earth's solar system, watching each other like wolves, but no one had fired. No one had attacked. The balance held. Elder sat at the head of the delegation. He looked older than before, tired, his silver skin dull under the artificial lights. Ambassador sat beside him, silent and still. Commander was notably absent, sent back to space in disgrace. The delegation was led by Fleet Commander Turn, whose pale blue skin and sharp features gave nothing away. They were logical, practical, and utterly ruthless in their calculations. They had come because the weapons cache changed everything. They stayed because Earth had surprised them. Secretary represented Earth. She sat straight and calm, her hands folded on the table, her eyes steady. Behind her, representatives from every major nation watched and waited. "Let us be clear about the situation," said. "The weapons cache contains technology that could shift the balance of power in this region of space. Neither the nor the can claim it without provoking the other. War between your civilizations would be devastating." "We are aware," Elder said coldly. "Then you are also aware that Earth holds the only precise coordinates to the cache. We accessed them from the vessel you abandoned on our world." "The vessel you stole," corrected. "The vessel you called garbage," Secretary replied smoothly. "I believe your exact words were fit for a garbage world. We simply took you at your word." A muscle twitched in his cheek. He had no response. Fleet Commander Turn spoke for the first time. His voice was flat, without emotion. "The humans have acted with remarkable strategic awareness. They have placed themselves at the center of this situation. The question is what they intend to do with that position." Secretary nodded. "Our proposal is simple. The weapons cache must be dismantled. Its technology is too dangerous to remain intact. We propose a joint operation, supervised by all 3 parties, to destroy the cache completely." "Destroy it," voice rose. "That technology is priceless. It represents centuries of achievement." "It represents the potential for galactic war," Secretary replied. "And Earth will hold the deactivation codes. Neither of your civilizations will be able to access the cache without our cooperation." Turn's cold eyes studied her. "You wish to become gatekeepers, neutral arbiters in a conflict that predates your species." "We wish to survive," Secretary said simply, "and to ensure that others survive as well. We have no interest in galactic conquest. We only want a seat at the table." The negotiations continued for hours. There were arguments, threats, and moments when it seemed everything would collapse. But slowly, carefully, an agreement took shape. The cache would be dismantled. Earth would hold the codes. A permanent embassy would be established on Earth, staffed by all 3 species. Trade agreements would be negotiated. Technology would be shared carefully and gradually. They did not like it. They did not trust it, but neither could find a better option. When the treaty was signed, Secretary allowed herself a small smile. They had done it. Earth had gone from primitive backwater to galactic player in less than a year. Back in, the celebration was quieter but just as real. Stood in the construction bay, watching engineers work on the 4th human starship. It was already better than the first 3. Sleeker, faster, more powerful, they were learning quickly now. Found her there, his tablet tucked under his arm. Commander sent a private message. He wanted to talk to you. Raised an eyebrow. To me, why? He said he needed to understand. She thought about refusing, but curiosity won. She followed to a small communication room where a screen showed Silver face. He looked different now, smaller somehow, less certain. You are the mechanic, he said, the one who touched the ship. I am. I have spent many days trying to understand what happened. How your species, with all its limitations, managed to turn our garbage into weapons. How you outmaneuvered an empire. Leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. Maybe we're not as limited as you thought. That is not an explanation. Then let me give you one. Stepped closer to the screen. You threw away what you didn't understand. You assumed that because we were different, we were lesser. You never considered that we might have strengths you couldn't see. Was silent for a long moment. And what strengths are those? Hunger said, curiosity, stubbornness. We don't give up on things because they're broken. We fix them. We improve them. We take what we're given and we make it into something better. That is not how we think. I know that's why you lost. His image flickered. For just a moment, something crossed his face. Not quite respect, but something close to it. Perhaps, he said slowly, we were wrong about you. Perhaps you were. The screen went dark. Stood there for a moment thinking about the journey that had brought her here. A crashed ship in a tea field. A moment of curiosity. A touch on warm metal. Everything that followed had grown from that single moment. She walked back to the construction bay, to the heart of humanity's new future. Doctor was there, along with Sara and General. They were gathered around Vessel's hull, which had been integrated into the framework of a new ship. A human ship, built with human hands, guided by alien knowledge. Vessel said, "How do you feel?" The AI's voice came from speakers all around them, warm and strong. "I feel purpose. I was built to carry, to protect, to serve. I was thrown away and forgotten, but you found me. You woke me. You gave me something new to believe in." "What's that?" "Hope," Vessel said. "Your species has taught me hope." Grinned. "So what happens now?" General looked at the stars visible through the construction bay's window. "Now we build more ships. We train more crews. We learn everything Vessel can teach us. And we take our place among the stars." Placed her hand on Vessel's hull one more time. She could feel the heartbeat beneath the metal, strong and steady. A ship that had been abandoned. A world that had been dismissed. Together, they had changed everything. "The stars were always there," she said softly. "Watching, waiting." Vessel's lights pulsed warmly in response. "And now you are ready." Outside the facility, dawn was breaking. The sun rose over a world that had stepped onto a larger stage. Politicians were making speeches. Scientists were making plans. Children were looking at the sky and dreaming new dreams. And somewhere out there, among the distant stars, two great empires were learning a lesson they would never forget. Never underestimate the species that takes your garbage and turns it into gold. Never mock the world that reaches out to touch the stars and refuses to let go. Humanity was ready. The universe would never be the same.